So here is my basic Wiremod door tutorial. Now you'll look up basic Wiremod door or simple Wiremod door on Google or YouTube, and you'll get a bunch of doors, and they might be easier than like a hyper complex door or convoluted door, but they're not simple. So this tutorial is like the simplest, worst door you could possibly make in Wiremod that's effective for PvP use. Alright, so this is not going to be a ceremonious door. If you're looking for a door that looks pretty, you might want to find someone else's tutorial. But if you're looking for something you can throw together in like 10 or 15 seconds, then this is a tutorial for you. Okay, so we're going to be using both Wiremod and vanilla constraints here, and the first thing you're going to need is to find an opening, preferably one built into the map. And so I'll be using this doorway in GM construct, and we're going to need, first thing first, we're going to need a door. So we're actually going to need two doors, so I'll use two blast doors. It can be any prop you want. I know some people like to use the plastic props or the base plates, but it's really whatever you're comfortable with. You can always paint it and material it to make it look the way you want, but first things first, we need to cover the door entrance with our prop. That's going to be our door. And so make sure you check the outside. Might be a little bit harder in multiplayer because a lot of servers disable no clip, but just try to make sure there isn't any huge visible gaps. Like, that's probably fine, but if you see larger gaps that people can shoot through, obviously you don't want that if you want to have a secure base of operation. And so that's your door. Make sure it's frozen with the fizz gun. You do not want the door to be mobile for right this second. It's not going to be a permanent thing. Take the second door, place it to the right or left or even above. It's really whatever you want. I find it easiest to put it on the side, and so make sure it's about the same level as the door. It doesn't need to be exact. Once that's done, make sure that this other door, the one that you're not going to be using as a door, is welded to the world. And I like to make sure it's very secure, so I would say weld it at each corner. Just like that. And then, once that's done, we're going to start getting into our constraints. Now, the first thing that you're going to need is what we call a slider. Now, a slider is one of those constraints that most Garry's Mod players probably aren't using. They're actually incredibly useful, but unless you're like into the Garry's Mod construction and technical side, you've probably never used one before. But it's a rope that locks movement at an axis. So think of a rope. You can move the object when it's tied to a rope, but that object is not going to go further than the rope. A slider, instead of locking its position from distance, it locks it by axis, which means that a horizontal slider is only going to let the object move horizontally, and a vertical slider will only let the object move vertically. And we want this door to horizontally slide open, which means that we are going to need to use a horizontal slider. And some people make them invisible. I'm going to make it visible just to make the guide easier, and I try to put it right around the edges, and two of them are fine. So one here, one there. One here, one there. And now if I unlock this physics object, you can see now it's kind of got locked rotation here. But that might happen. And let's get that door back. And you might wonder, how can I stop that from happening? And it's actually very simple. Get a basic rope, and make sure that that rope prevents it from going further than it's supposed to. So let's say this is as far as we want this to go. Take a rope, make sure it adds no length, so there's no multiplier in how far it can go, and put one rope beneath each slider. And again, normally this stuff is invisible. I'm just leaving it visible for the sake of the tutorial. And so now, this door can go no further than those ropes. Generally. Next step, we're going to have to get some Wiremod. The most important thing you're going to need for this entire build is a hydraulic. Hydraulics are essentially just a fancier winch, is the best way I can describe it for in layman's terms. But take a hydraulic, put it in the center of your door, and then the center of the static door, and then push it again to drop your controller winch. And that's going to be the main tool that determines how far the door is going to be from the starting point, or essentially our door's motion. Now, we need to do some measurements. So you can actually highlight the hydraulic controller and you'll see a value called hydraulic length, and right now it's 135.19. If we move that, you can see it actually changes to 187.30. That's how we can determine the lengths that we will need for the next step. So make sure you get your door in the open position that you want, and that'll be 154.14. I would recommend just rounding, so that would be 154. We want to get a button, and what most people don't understand is that you can actually change the output of your button. By default, it's 1 or 0, like a binary circuit, so true or false, but you could change it to be anything. And so we could check here, 152. So we want the value on to be the same number of length that the open door is, which should be 152. Now, we need to know what it's going to be closed, which is 80, but I will make it 81. I'll round up. So now, instead of being a true or false system, that button now prints values 152 when on and 81 when off. Take that wire button, put it somewhere near your door that's going to be in a convenient place. I'll put it right there. Actually, it's probably in the way. There we go. Now, let's get out a wire. We want to change the length of this hydraulic to be determined by the button. Now, if I unfreeze this door, it will change depending on the value of the button. So if I want it open, I flip it down. And now we've got an open door. If I want it to be turned off, I flip the switch back off. Again, it's very dirty, buggy, frankly, but it works. And if you need to throw together a very simple door, there you go.